Welcome to our mostly unscripted and unedited podcast. I'm Paulette Kidd, nutritionist.
And I'm her sister-in-law and bestie, Sarah Kidd.
We love discussing all things related to health, including mindset, self-care, and nutrition.
Join us as we share coffee, laughs, recipes, and random thoughts tossed in for good measure.
You'll leave each conversation feeling motivated and with actionable strategies that you can use right away to improve your health and help you stop feeling fat, foggy, and fatigued.
See you there.
All right, welcome back to our unnamed podcast. I was thinking about how I always used to start our conversations with, I was listening to this podcast the other day.
Yeah.
Because I think you and I both love podcasts and get so much information. And I love sharing stuff with you and you love sharing stuff with me. And so I thought maybe that should be the name of our podcast. So I was listening to this podcast the other day.
Yeah. So I was listening to this podcast. That's the name. That's the name of our podcast.
Yeah. That's a little long, but I don't know. Anyways, it's a work in progress, as I keep saying. Yeah. So I'm Paulette Kidd, registered holistic nutritionist. And this is my sister-in-law, Sarah Kidd. Yes, guinea pig, professional guinea pig. We should explain that again in case people miss some of the episodes, but it's because I have this online program where I help women over the age of 35 who are feeling fat, foggy, fatigued. And while I was creating this program, Sarah was my guinea pig. And so that's why every time I try something new, Sarah tests it out for me. Yeah. Gives me feedback. Huge help.
Yeah, we work together and we really help each other out, don't we?
Yeah. So what are you drinking today?
Okay, here we go. Well, because of our theme for our topic for today, I chose something very delightful. First I'll show you my mug because that's something that's going to be adorable for you. Here we go. Sorry, I'm hesitating. I'm taking
for me.
I'm taking a steep route. That's why it's taking so long. So this is my very cute, pretty, cozy mug that I got for a couple bucks at a grocery store after, the holidays last year, I think, or something. But what I love about it is he's wintry and he sort of suggests Christmas, but he's really conducive to the whole winter. Look how cozy he is. He's so cute,
cozy.
And he's got a scarf on. So because we are talking about all things to do with cozy, that is my mug, and I've got my comfy sweater on, and I've got my comfy scarf that wraps around my neck, so that I am.
Oh, that's what I'm missing. I'm missing my cozy scarf.
Well, there you go.
Well, all right, after.
Okay.
So what are you drinking in there?
So in there is caramel shortbread tea.
Ooh.
It is a herbal tea.
David's tea. Yeah,
it is David's tea.
Yeah.
It is David's tea, and it is one of the better holiday teas. It's really nice, and it's great as a dessert substitute because it sounds like dessert and tastes like dessert and smells like dessert, which we're going to talk more about all of those things today.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So here's my mug. I don't know if you can read that.
Today is a hot chocolate kind of day. Perfect.
Right? I love this shape of this mug. So it's like wider at the bottom, like significantly wider. So I don't know. It's just fun to hold. I like the shape of it. And and on the other side, it's the same thing in French. So
yeah,
I actually bought this. I actually bought this for my daughter who is in French school, because I thought you don't often see both on a mug. So I thought that I would get that for her, but I think I use it more than she does. So then inside is a sugar-free hot chocolate that I made that was just super simple. And so I just heated up some almond milk, unsweetened almond milk with a little bit of heavy cream in it. And then I added a couple tablespoons of pure cocoa powder, unsweetened. And then I added a little bit of brown sugar swerve because I love that, and a little bit of vanilla. And then I just whisked it up, and there it is. So to me, that's a very cozy drink.
Yes.
So we're talking about cozy today.
Yes, that's a great little recipe. Maybe we could even just include, it sounds like you just kind of made it up and it's pretty simple, but if we write it down, then some of our listeners could try it
Yes.
themselves after this podcast, or they could press pause right now and go get it and then come back and drink it while they listen or watch or both.
And I should say one thing I forgot to put in that's kind of like a secret ingredient is like a sprinkle of cayenne pepper, which I know seems crazy. Yep. I saw that on a cooking show once, years and years ago, and I thought, that's just weird, but I'm going to try it. And I quite like it. Just a little bit. It's a little bit of heat. So especially when it's cold and dreary, or maybe you have a little bit of a cold, so you have a little bit of congestion, it feels really nice going down. So just like a little sprinkle. And
okay.
But yeah.
Well, secret ingredients are the most important ones, so you can't leave that out.
So don't tell anybody.
Yes. So I guess today we're going to talk about I don't know what it is.
The weird word.
The idea of HYGGE, or if I pronounced it the way it's written, HYGGE. And I'll just show you this little book cover here. I've got this little book of HYGGE, the Danish way to live well. So this is just something I picked up a few years ago, and you probably have heard of it. Maybe you haven't. But how does that all fit in with what we're doing and what we're talking about? The answer will reveal itself.
Yes.
And so I'll just read to you a little brief part of this introduction to kind of give you a sense, if you've never heard of it before, what it is. HYGGE, HYGGE. It's not important how you choose to pronounce it or even spell HYGGE. To paraphrase one of the greatest philosophers of our time, Winnie the Pooh, when asked how to spell a certain emotion, you don't spell it, you feel it. So I thought that was really good. But yes, so nobody really knows how to pronounce this word, or at least I know I don't like saying HYGGE because it feels really weird to do that. So
sounds like a car horn, like an old-fashioned car horn. That's what it.
HYGGE. I think that's why I don't like saying it like that. So I'm just gonna say HYGGE, and
we're gonna call it HYGGE.
I ask everyone to bear with us as we call it HYGGE. It will help you in the search later if you're trying to research, right? Then
because who knows how to spell HYGGE? Yeah.
No, nobody does unless you're Danish or speak Danish. Okay. So anyway,
and I should say that you have been incorporating this in your lifestyle, like recently. And I also was doing the same thing. And just in what is very common for us, we're both doing and thinking the same thing at the same time, even though we haven't talked about it yet. And even though we don't live anywhere near one another. And yes, we're just like on the same brain wavelength all the time. So it's kind of cool.
Exactly.
What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, so the idea of it, from what I understand, and I'm certainly not a expert at this, but the idea is it's a feeling, and it's about creating that feeling. And maybe you don't feel that feeling on its own, so you need to do things to help you get there, kind of a thing. And so that kind of goes back to our earlier conversations in the second podcast, I think, where we talk about you make a decision and then you act as though you're motivated to help you become more motivated. But anyway, it's about creating a feeling when the circumstances aren't maybe as ideal as you would like them to be, or regardless of whether they're ideal or not. But basically, in this part of the world, they have very long nights, a lot of darkness, and it's cold, and we're in Ontario, so we experience the same kind of thing. It's cold in the winter. Winter is long. Sometimes it's 6 months long by the time you get rid of all the snow and cold. And the nights are longer. It's dark at 5, for some of the months of winter, and it takes a long time for the sun to come up, it feels like. So it's about creating, I want to say, this is my interpretation, creating warmth and joy and comfort in the midst of that. It's kind of making the best of what you've got, right? Like, I don't know if you can relate, if you're from a similar part of the world, that we kind of tend to want to hibernate and cozy up and be inside and do certain activities during these months of the year. So some of the chapters in the book, we talk about light being a contributor to that, creating that feeling of comfort and HYGGE. Togetherness. So being with people that you love to be with, your family, your friends, your tribe, whoever that is, like being around people that are going to give you that feeling. Food and drink. So that's an important one that we'll talk about too. So I put on my comfiest clothes for this, how to create that outside of the home, how to create it all year round and not just in the wintertime when it's dark and want to hibernate. And I'm just noticing now, because I haven't actually read this book from cover to cover, but I'm noticing that there is the summer HYGGE. So I was just thinking about that today, not knowing that was a chapter in the book. How can I create HYGGE in the summer? And I was like, I'm not ready to dive too deep into that, but that was a question that popped up. Yeah. And Christmas, you and I both really love anything to do with the Christmas season and I think because it inherently generates that feeling of HYGGE. Yeah. And it's a big one, in the discussion in this book among the Danish people, that Christmas ranks way up there in terms of creating HYGGE. And so anyway, so we just wanted to talk about how we can use that to help shift our focus from eating foods that might give us that HYGGE feeling in a way that's not healthy for us to do. Yeah. And shift that into creating other ways of feeling comforted without just making it about eating. Like food and drink is in there. It's a part of it, but it's not the whole thing. It's one facet of this multifaceted thing. And so some of the things that I've been doing in the last months leading up to Christmas was being very mindful of my surroundings and of creating an environment that is, like, I just did a deep breath just as I was thinking about it, but that's just conducive to calm and feeling comfort and feeling, and then I want to say happy, but that's not quite right. Like, it's not just about creating happiness all the time, but just feel good emotions without food. So lighting candles, which provides sometimes a nice scent as well as light, like a good ambient light, right? I noticed that you've got, I think, a crystal lamp back there, Paulette, behind you. Is that what that is?
A salt lamp back there, and then there's another candle. But I also have another candle I wanted to show you. Oh. So this has been one of my favorite scented candles for years. A friend of mine gave me a tiny one for my birthday a number of years ago, and I loved it so much, but I was afraid to finish it because it was so tiny and it was so beautiful, but it was like kind of pricey. Like it was like $20 for this little tiny candle. But I have since found them various other places, and if you just kind of be patient, you can get them on sale. And so I bought a few for myself this Christmas so that I have them. And so it's kind of interesting. It has an outer cover that fits over top, and it's a metal candle holder, and it's, just tell you what it is. It's called Bloom Balsam and Cedar. It's a luxury soy candle. So it's soy, which means that it burns longer. Like this candle will last a lot longer, but has a beautiful scent of, I imagine it makes me feel like I'm walking through the forest with cedars, but there's also this spicy cinnamony and clove scent with it. It's so nice.
Everything about that.
Yeah. So the smell is nice. Just looking at the flame is nice. So I often have a candle burning and that is very comforting to me. So yeah.
Yeah. And you talked earlier in one of the previous podcasts, I think, about your fairy lights behind you you had.
I brought them up here. They're front and center now.
Yeah.
But yeah, just these little tiny white lights, and it's a warm white light, not the cool one. I don't find that one as pleasing to look at, but yeah, so just having those around, like I associate these with Christmas, right? And couple of years ago, I decided that I was not going to relegate those lights to Christmas time. I'm going to use them at whenever, like all the time. And so I actually just made an investment in a couple other sets so that I can have them out, just because I just like the way I feel when I look at them. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And it gives you something that gives you that feeling that we might be seeking in a comfort food.
Yes.
And so light being a really good one. And then another thing, of course, are these desserty drinks, the teas potentially you might like that taste like a dessert. They're kind of sweet, or like the hot chocolate that you shared the recipe for. Like, that's a great comforting warm drink, but we don't have to go kind of off plan to enjoy it, right? Because there's ways we can enjoy it. And I love the idea of that cayenne pepper. I can't wait to try that.
Yeah.
And comfy clothing too. So creating it just kind of, it addresses the other senses, right?
Yes.
Like, we have these senses and we have a sense of taste, and I love food. I love the taste of food and the smell of food and the experience of sharing food with people and enjoying different kinds of food. But there's so many other things we can do with our other senses, the lights that just create visual pleasure, and an alternative way to taste something nice in the form of a hydrating drink.
Yeah.
And then just the textures of comfortable clothes, blankets, comfy couches with pillows, creating that kind of cozy environment that way.
Have you seen those? I keep thinking they look like dog beds, but they're for adults.
You told me about this.
I did tell you about that. Well, and they keep showing up in my Instagram feed, but they look so cozy. Like, I can just imagine like curling up in this thing. It kind of envelops you when you that's what it looks like in the photo. It kind of envelops you, and I can imagine being there cozy, either having a nap or reading a book or whatever. But like, for me, the HYGGE philosophy, what speaks to me is the self-care piece. And it's like giving myself the permission to do something or look at something or be surrounded by something that gives me pleasure, that makes me feel cared for, that I can look forward to. So instead of like, being in a busy day and looking forward to coming home and eating some chocolate or having a bag of chips after dinner or whatever that might be, I can look forward to being in this environment and maybe sitting down and reading a book. Or even if it's the case that I have work to do, but at least I'm surrounded by these things that I like to look at. So it adds an element of feeling cared for in there. And the whole idea in relation to what we do is that if you satisfy that self-care need in other ways other than food, you're less likely to have those intense cravings, or you're less likely to go searching for comfort food that is not going to help you get towards your goal. And it's just a choice. If it's something that you would like to eat less of, that comfort food that's usually high in carbs, high in sugar, very little nutrition. If that's your choice, then you look for other ways to sort of fill that, right? So this is just a way to do it. So
and it's not that you can't enjoy those delicious foods and things like that, but it's about doing it mindfully. So if you're going to enjoy a quote indulgence, planning it out and making it a whole experience, so that it's not just I shoved it in my face and then it was gone and it was over. But like, I got together with a friend and we had a conversation over this piece of dessert, and we sat in a cozy environment, or we had a coffee with it and we connected together, and we, got all these other benefits from it. And it's not just about the cake like that, then it's part of the experience. But also just all of the desserts, simple kinds of dessert foods we can make using alternative sweeteners and using whole ingredients as well, like the apple bake that you came up with. Like, the whole experience is like apple crumble, like it's delicious and scented and fragrant and all those things, but it's not gonna put you kind of out of your mindset or something.
Yeah. I think fat bombs are another food that kind of fits in that category.
Absolutely.
The fat bomb, just, yes, like the basic recipe, it's cream cheese, creamed coconut, and then a bit of sweetener and a bit of flavoring, whatever you want. And you just make them in like little, bonbon sized treats, right? Like it feels very indulgent. It almost feels like cheesecake kind of thing, but it's supporting your health. It's good fat and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
I also wanted to mention too, like for me, I imagine creating this little protective bubble of comfort, especially if you're going through like a really stressful time or something's going on in your life that you don't have a lot of control over. If you can just give yourself some mental relief by going into your little bubble of HYGGE, right? Like that's so, I love that visualization, and I find that really appealing. Yeah.
Yes. And I actually made a list because I'm keeping track of, I'm writing out some of my goals, some of my intentions, and then that allows me to set some plans for how I can reach those things too. And so one of the things I did was make a list of things that I can do instead of emotional snacking, or we could call it mindless eating too, like things to do instead of picking up a snack while I'm watching TV kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they're all pretty high things. So I'll read the list to you. Like I'll show you. I mean, it's like a page, it's a page long of things that I can do instead of snacking when I'm not eating nutrition in that time. So like I could read, I could go for a walk. Again, sensory experience, right? Like going for a walk, you're feeling the temperature and you're hearing nature sounds if you're walking in nature, and you're smelling things too, and you're seeing the landscape, it's amazing. Anyway, I could do yoga. I could engage in some sort of meditation, just a calming, quiet, listen to something for 5 minutes, to some wave sounds, or to a short guided meditation. I could write about it. I could get out my journal, or I could text a friend. Sometimes I text people my thoughts and struggles about what I, eating and not eating. I could crochet or knit. These are things that use my hands and I love to do them. So if I want to watch TV, I could do that at the same time, and it occupies, and I love creating. I think we all, to some degree, love to create things. Even if we're not, crafty or artistic, there's ways that we can be creative. Make a tea, drink a bubbly, because we love sparkling water. I could color. I could just go to bed if it's close to bedtime. That's very high. Like going to bed early is really high in the winter. Like getting cozy right in your bed. I could sit through the discomfort and ask myself where it's coming from. I could paint my nails. I could take a bath. I could draw or sketch. It's something that I enjoy doing. I could, browse Pinterest for motivational recipes. I could light a candle, play some music. And some of these things you can do a bunch at once. You can light a candle, play some music, and read in bed. Right? But just like listing it out helped me see there are so many ways that I can comfort myself and do an activity that's going to be beneficial to me in lots of ways, that eating a nutrient deficient snack mindlessly while watching TV is not going to do for me. It's only going to help me in that moment.
Yeah. And we've talked about that, about how that pleasure from eating that delicious food, like it's definitely there, but it's very short-lived, and it often leaves you wanting more. Whereas some of these other things that you mentioned are much more fulfilling and longer lasting, right? And and they're not deterring you from your health goal. So it's about making a deliberate choice, a deliberate decision, right? With intention, like being intentional sort of thing. So lots of ideas there. I was thinking as you were talking, some other things that I find that, so when I feel like I'm actually in the full sensation of high, it's like I get this feeling, like it's like this relief, this mental relief, physical relief. And I feel that when I look at a candle. I feel like that when I hear the sound of a crackling fire. That's a really powerful one for me. or when I hear the sounds of waves and seagulls. That's another thing. Coffee house jazz. So by that I just mean like just kind of not music, so not that like elevator music, but like just like like gentle jazz. There's usually not somebody singing, it's just instrumental, whatever.
Yeah.
And another big one for me is yoga nidra. So for anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's like a guided meditation where you're laying in shavasana. So you're laying down on the ground with your palms up and usually with a cozy blanket on you. And it's a type of meditation where you're encouraged to focus on different body parts, not moving it or anything like that, but just focusing on it. So it's really great for people who have tried meditation and they can't stop their mind from thinking or wandering or thinking about the to-do list when you're doing this guided meditation. And being able to lay down is also really great. And I'll be honest, I sometimes fall asleep, but I still seem to get the benefit from it. I still feel better when it's done. And it could just be a 10-minute thing, but I really enjoy that. We can put a link below to some of the ones that we use. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe we can link a couple of our favorite ambiences. I don't know if anyone has ever tapped into the YouTube ambience situation online, but it's pretty awesome. We love it in our house because we don't have a fireplace. So my favorite one is just a fireplace. There's no music. There's just a crackling fireplace. And I swear it feels warmer in the room.
I know.
And even though it's just a television screen, it does help create a mood.
Yes.
You know, another thing you can do if you're not into candles or whatever, but maybe you're into oils, you can diffuse oils as well. And you can get nice fragrance that way. And it can help to humidify the air and kind of make the environment better that way. But yeah, I love the fireplace ambience, but then I also love like a meditative music ambience with like a beautiful nature scene or nature sounds. I also love the coffee house ones where it's a scene of a coffee house and you can picture yourself there and there's maybe some light jazz playing or the sound of rain falling. All of those things, you know, and I think what we're tapping into is the de-stressing that is required, right? That you talk about, people are coming to you stressed, they're coming to you overwhelmed, I mean, I think if we can put this into our daily routine, it's probably going to help put us in a better position to make good choices, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. And it doesn't have to be this huge thing. It could just be 5 minutes, right? But it's making that choice and you're doing something for yourself. And that you know, can feel really good. And then it makes you want to make other good choices because you're sort of on a roll, right?
And I wonder if it helps to build. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just saying, I encourage people to do something in the morning, like sort of first thing. And if that means you have to get up 5 minutes earlier, then do that. But starting your day that way can make a huge impact on your whole day. And I've seen research even saying that like people who start their day intentionally doing something that sort of feeds their soul, they are much less likely to engage in like emotional eating at the end of the day. It's sort of like they've filled their bucket with like mental resources so that there's still some left by the time they get to the end of the day. So like it's worth a try, right?
And two things, the end of the day is my most vulnerable time. I can do great all day. And it's the end of the day when I start to make worse choices for myself. And then I wonder too, if that self-care piece feeds into that trust, building trust with yourself.
Yeah.
Because I think if you feel cared for by yourself, you're going to trust yourself more, aren't you? Trust your instincts more and be more like build that confidence piece as well. Like, and I think we're also, in a sense, filling our lives with more things that provide us with those good feeling hormones, as opposed to just like we're distracted a little bit, right? If I'm knitting, I'm not eating a greasy snack because I don't want to I'm busy with my hands, but I'm sitting and maybe I've got lights on, like, you know, fairy lights. Maybe I've got a candle and some music or a nice movie and a blanket. Like it's just what else do you need?
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe a cat or a dog to go with it. I don't know.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, you were just going to do a little recap or a follow-up, I guess, from last podcast session. So we were
Yes.
talking about, setting a goal and thinking of like, a couple simple things you could do to help make progress towards that goal. So you're going to share what you're doing.
Yeah. So I mean, of course we have ultimate goals and we have lots of little goals that will maybe lead to bigger goals. But one of my goals for myself, and I'm really not trying because that's a bad word, but I'm really working on how I phrase what I'm doing, because I want my focus to be on my health and well-being, not just to be on, say, weight loss or whatever. I mean, I would like obviously to be a weight that's good and healthy for my body and to feel good in my body and to feel agile and nimble. So one thing that I live with is some chronic low back pain. That's probably not super uncommon for people our age. And so when I exercise regularly and take care of the muscles in my body, the muscles take care of my back, and I tend to have a pretty good back situation. When I get out of the flow of doing regular exercise and I get a kind of out of shape, or my muscles get out of tone, I find trying to jump back into exercising throws my back out. And so I end up in this vicious cycle where I exercise, get a sore back, need a few days to recover. I'm ready to exercise again, but now I haven't done it now again. I did it once and then I didn't do it for 3 days. And then I'm also worried I'm going to do the same thing to my back. And I'm not trying to do more than my body can do. And I'm not doing anything that's especially hard on the back. It's just kind of, I think they're just untoned muscles that haven't built up the strength to take care of it. So my goal is to take care of my back. And that's not a very specific goal. So I'm going to take care of my back by strengthening my body, especially the muscles around my back. And I mean, when I say the muscles around my back, I mean, like our core abdominal muscles support our back, but also our legs support our back. I mean, our butts support our back, like all those are, all those things are part of it. So how can I build and strengthen them? Well, I committed to do a 30-day yoga journey. And I really like how it's called a journey and not a challenge, because for me, I'm not trying to challenge myself to do something really difficult. I'm trying to set myself up for success. So for me personally, the word journey feels good.
Yeah.
And it feels like something I want to go on. I want to go on a journey. I don't want to go compete in a challenge.
Yeah.
That feels stressful to me. And so that's one thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to every day. And then now that's easy for me to say. And then it's harder to do because I got to keep doing that every day for 30 days. And I'm going to go back to work soon, and I'm going to be busy again, and the days are short, and we're going to want to hibernate. So I'm going to look ahead and I'm going to plan the times that I'm going to do it. And I'm going to maybe even have a backup time. So for example, if I plan to do it before, while supper's cooking, like I get supper going and then I do it during supper cooking time, and that day it doesn't work out, that doesn't happen, I know that I have just before bedtime that I can do that.
Yeah.
And so I'll plan the times, even if it's just in my mind, planning the times that I'll do it, then at least I've got a plan. And if my plan A fails, I've got plan B. And then the third thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to offer myself some kind of reward for sticking with it. So, I might be tending to tell myself, oh, well, if you do yoga, you can't watch TV, and you really like to watch TV before you go to bed or something. So then it's like, well, when I'm finished my yoga, that's when I can have the reward of watching some TV. So that's going to motivate me to make sure I do that. And it's not because the practice is a chore per se. It's not. I enjoy doing it. I love the whole process of it. I hope that I'll get to the point where I just look forward so much to doing it that I do it because I don't want to miss it, because I love the benefits and I love doing it. But those are just some small things that I'll do to help myself get to that goal.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, and it's just very simple, right? Like you just took a few minutes to decide how you could make that happen for yourself, right?
Mhm.
Rather than just saying, I'm gonna support the health of my back, or even just to say, I'm gonna do this 30-day challenge, because
Mhm.
as we all know, life gets in the way of those things.
Yeah.
So
And
we
as
need
you
to
warned
plan.
us in a previous podcast, don't be surprised that life gets busy. Don't be surprised that people are going to bring donuts to work. Don't be
Yes.
caught off guard by
Don't
these
hope.
facts. Don't
hope that it will change if you're
Don't-
not doing anything to change it.
don't hope that no one ever eats a donut around you ever again.
Yeah, that's
'Cause-
just not realistic.
Yeah.
I say plan for the worst.
And for the worst.
Yeah.
You'll never
Not
be
to be
disappointed.
pessimistic, but just, plan for, if it's something that you really want to do and you really want to stick to it,
Yeah.
think about all of the possible things that could get in the way and have a plan.
Yes, I
So,
love it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And honestly, if you don't do that, that might be an indication that you're like, this is self-sabotage, right? If you know that stuff is going to happen, and it, 90% chance stuff's going to happen, that's going to get in your way. And if you don't plan ahead, I think that's self-sabotage, whether you're aware of it or not. So hopefully by listening to this podcast, you will be aware of it. But
yeah, or it's maybe self-neglect, which is not necessarily much better.
Yeah. And sometimes I think it's the case that people don't feel like they deserve it. They don't deserve that self-care. They don't deserve that time to themselves. And I think women particularly are apt to feel that way for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason is, but we just think everybody else's needs should come first. I don't know if it's that caregiver in us or I don't know, but ultimately, like if you look at it rationally, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be at your best to care for those other people, if that's what you want to do, right? Your spouse, your kids, your parents, whatever that is. So really, you owe it to yourself and to them to take some time for yourself. Yeah. So all right, I guess that's it. So just to recap what we're talking about today, we're talking about HYGGE, HYGGE,
or HYGGE.
So ways to create an environment so that you create this feeling of comfort, of self-care, of cozy, and it's often something that we seek in the cold weather, but it really should be anytime, because we should be engaging in self-care and all the time so that we feel fulfilled.
And also providing pleasant sensory situations that are not just taste related, right? So pleasant smells, pleasant temperatures, pleasant visuals.
Yes,
pleasant
things we can
smells.
hear. Yes, yeah. But I really liked what you said about when you do have the food indulgences that make you feel good and all that you really like savor that moment, right? So you're not just like mindlessly eating that food. You'd make a ritual out of it, like sit somewhere specific that makes you also feel good when you're eating that food, like savoring each bite, like taking your time, enjoying it, or enjoying it with someone that you like spending time with, creating a whole experience. It's much more meaningful than just mindlessly eating that food. So
absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So until next time.
Yeah.
All
Maybe we'll get into some excuse busting.
Yes, that's right. Next time we're going to start. So that'll probably be a series of a few podcasts, because we really, again, it's about empowering you and starting with being mindful, becoming aware of the excuses you might be using to get that they're getting in the way of you making progress towards your goal, whatever that is. So we're going to bust some of those excuses and tell you why they just don't hold water.
Looking forward to
hot
it.
chocolate or coffee or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. They're not cute mugs. Okay.
No, they're not. They're not. Maybe Sarah will have her nails done next time.
Have my what?
Your nails done next time.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Until next time.
See you next time.